Win. That's what you gotta do. Win, he said. If you go down, you got to help yourself. Nobody can help you. You got to do it yourself. You got to have determination to win. You got to get up yourself. He was born Sidney Walker in Augusta, Georgia on April 1st, 1921. His parents split up just after his birth, and he grew up on a rundown farm with his grandmother, Evie Mixum. Grandmother Evie renamed him Beau Jack for reasons that Jack himself couldn't remember, but she told him that one day he would become either a fighter or a preacher. Jack didn't have much opportunity to go to school, instead picking cotton or walking into town and shining shoes of other cotton pickers. On one occasion, Jack came home crying after some boys robbed him of his earnings as a shoeshine boy.
I had a grandmother lived a very long life, 112 years. That's a long time. And I come home one day and I was crying. And she asked me what I was crying for. And I told her, I said, the boys taking my money. I was shining shoes at the time. And she said, you mean to tell me you crying? I cried, yeah. She told me to pull my clothes off. I went there, she gave me the worst whooping of my life. Told me no walker, run from no one. And if you ever run again, police gonna have to come get me because I'm gonna murder you. And you stand there and you fight until the blood run into your shoes, don't you run. And from that time on, that's what I done.
One day his grandmother called for Jack to get her a bowl of soup. When he came back from the kitchen, she was dead. With no guardian present, Jack went days without food. He wandered onto the greens of the Augusta National Golf Club. Jack explained that his folks were long gone and that his grandmother just died. The steward of the club, Bowman Milligan, took the young boy under his wing, getting Jack to work as both a caddy and a shoeshine boy. By the age of 15, the club members had taken a liking to him, particularly because of his success in battle royals, a combat event in which up to 6 black men were thrown into a ring blindfolded and forced to fight. I would stay in the corner, real low, Jack said. People would miss me and hit the post or just hit me in the stomach. After only 2 men remained standing, the blindfolds were removed and the survivors engaged in a 4-round boxing match. Jack thrived in the battle royals, and on one occasion even knocked out one of his own brothers. They should still have battle royals, Jack said. They'd be a lot of fun for people who ain't seen them. But they can't. Guys ain't tough enough anymore. The teenage Jack married and started a family while getting his formal boxing training under Sid Bell. He always called me a knucklehead, Jack said. I always told him I was doing the best I could. He said to me that what I did would never be the best to him. After 2 years of shining shoes and boxing professionally in both Georgia and Massachusetts, Bowman Milligan wanted Jack to bring his fistic talents to New York. Milligan solicited 20 members of the club, including golf pro Bobby Jones, to invest $25 or more in the young phenom to jumpstart his career. Now managed by Chick Wergelis, Jack was taught how to draw out his signature and a contract was signed. But Wergelis complained that nobody changed Jack's fighting style. Jack fought as if he were still in a battle royal, sometimes absent-mindedly squaring off against the referee as well as his opponent. His mindset to just hit anybody remained. I know how to breathe and how to throw punches, Jack said. You're not in condition, you're going to get your brain scattered to the wrong part of your head. All that crap about defense, take it and put it up your butt. It's all about conditioning. Jack attacked opponents with savagery, throwing dozens of uppercuts, hooks, crosses, and more uppercuts. He never stopped attacking like a blind man in a battle royal, going on a multi-fight win streak as soon as he reached New York. But trainer Sid Bell's words echoed throughout the arenas. You're a bum, Bell screamed at Jack. Not nothing. never will be nothing. Your best ain't good enough. Ripped their mouths out. In 1941, Jack's record stood at 28-4, and he took on what was perceived to be his first big test against a 100-fight veteran in Tommy Spiegel. Jack impressed in a decision win over Spiegel and was now well on his way to stardom. The syndicate behind him had all of the bases covered. Jack had a manager, trainer, cook, and a host of Georgia businessmen who made sure he got the choicest steaks for his meals. The management group also looked out for Jack's future, sending his excess earnings to a bank in Augusta as they realized that the fighter had no concept of money. In December of 1941, Jack faced Freddie Archer, a stylistic carbon copy of himself. Archer won 2 back-to-back decisions over Jack. Beau wanted a third fight but was overruled by his manager, being told, "Sometimes there's a fellow who has your number." After the losses to Archer, Jack regrouped, winning 11 in a row before being matched against Ali Stoltz, the #1 contender for the lightweight title. Jack's manager had to guarantee Stoltz $10,000 or face a forfeit of $2,000 in case Jack couldn't make the weight of 135 pounds. Jack went through an ordeal trying to lose weight, drying out with no food, doing extra road work, and getting heavy rubdowns. The odds rose from 8-5 to 16-5 in Stoltz's favor, but Jack pulled the upset, cutting up Stoltz and stopping him at the end of the 7th round. Many overlooked the native, raw ability of Beau Jack's fighting heart, Grantland Rice wrote after the bout. A month later, Jack battled for the vacant lightweight crown against Tippy Larkin, and in the words of one reporter, knocked Larkin flatter and colder than a frozen rug. Jack's purse was over $10,000, and he was now officially Madison Square Garden's biggest draw. There was talk of him facing featherweight champion Willie Pep, but the bout never materialized. "I'll be a fighting champion because I love to fight and don't know anything else," Jack promised. In 1943, he defeated Fritzy Civic back-to-back with decision victories, despite having Civic repeatedly pull his head down and thumb him in the eye. Years later, Jack proudly showed off an injury to his left eye that was caused by the dirty tactics of Civic. A month after facing Civic, Jack went up against the legendary Henry Armstrong. Jack cut Armstrong over both eyes, but got wobbled himself in the final round before winning a unanimous decision. On May 21, 1943, Jack was given a boxing lesson by a 12-5 underdog in Bob Montgomery. The challenger floored Jack in the 11th, giving him a beating and taking his title. "They were like 2 eggs thrown into an electric fan," Grantland Rice wrote. Both were scrambled, but Beau Jack was a bit more on the omelet side. 6 months later, Jack got a rematch, coming into the ring as a 4-1 underdog. He redeemed himself, jumping on Montgomery from the start, winning back his title in front of 17,000 roaring fans at Madison Square Garden, one of which included Humphrey Bogart. The actor visited Jack's dressing room after the bout. "You were great tonight," Bogart said. "You were great." Ring magazine agreed, naming Jack the Fighter of the Year for 1944. 4 months later, Montgomery took the title back, winning a 15-round decision in a dreadfully dull bout. Jack received criticism from reporter Lawton Carver, who wrote, "He can't hit, he can't box, he isn't smart, and he travels along now on gas supplied by a lack of opposing talent." Jack fought Montgomery again 5 months later, winning a 10-rounder in a non-title match in what was called the War Bond fight. As both Montgomery and Jack were inducted into the Army, the admission fee was the purchase of war bonds from $25 to $100,000, bringing in a record receipt of over $35.9 million. Jack and Montgomery were paid $1 each. On February 21, 1947, Jack faced Tony Gennaro after undergoing surgery on his knee. His manager wanted him to rest, but Jack insisted on taking fights. In the 4th round, his manager's worst fears were realized. "I threw a left hook at Tony Gennaro," Jack said. "My foot got caught on something loose in the canvas. My body went with the punch, but my leg didn't move. My knee made a terrible pop, split like it was sawed in half. Busted in 5 pieces, doctor told me. I could put my fist in the hole in my knee. I said, 'I'm all right.' I tried to push it back together. I got up and kept hopping on one knee, throwing punches, but the referee, he made me stop. I tried to push him out of the way. I felt ashamed to lose that way. They took me off in a stretcher." Frank Sinatra, a longtime supporter of Jack, came into his dressing room with tears in his eyes. Even father figure Bowman Milligan wanted him to retire. But 9 months later, Jack was back in the ring. He notched 6 victories before getting a rematch against Gennaro. Eager for revenge, Jack pounced on Gennaro from the opening bell. The bout was fought in a rainstorm with both fighters slipping to the canvas on numerous occasions. The footing got so bad that both fighters wound up taking off their shoes and socks, going barefoot for the rest of the contest, which Jack won by decision. The victory earned Jack another shot at the lightweight title, now held by Ike Williams. After the loss, Jack could no longer command high purses for his fights. Sports writers now echoed Milligan's opinion, calling for his retirement with the feeling that Jack wasn't as quick or dangerous as he was before his knee injury. A modest win streak was followed by a series of defeats, ending in an 8-round knockout loss to Gil Turner in May of 1951. Jack retired but still spent money at the same fast clip while he was fighting. With paternity suits and unwise investments dwindling down his resources, Jack returned to the sport 4 years later. Boxing writer Jimmy Cannon visited Jack at Stillman's gym, lamenting the fact that the brave fighter was returning. Jack asked the reporter if people still liked him. Cannon wrote, "I didn't say, Beau Jack, the people like you, but the people forget. I didn't say, Beau Jack, you weren't the best fighter I've ever seen, but there never was a gamer one. The people respect you, and if they are moved by courage, if they appreciated decency, if they can be reached by pity, they will cherish you a long time. I didn't say that, but I wish I had. All I said was, Beau Jack, the people like you." Jack fought 3 more times, waging his final battle in his hometown of Augusta against his old nemesis, Ike Williams. Williams stopped him in the 8th round. "I went out on my feet," Jack said. "They can't ever take that from me." Jack retired for good, managing a pig farm in Georgia which eventually went under. The unfortunate part of the financial section of Beau Jack's career story, wrote Clifford Roberts, is that while he never smoked or drank, he found other ways of spending money. Partly as the result of paternity suits, Beau Jack began drawing money out of his investment account faster than he was putting in. Jack then moved to Florida and found work shining shoes at the Fontainebleau Hotel, his life now having come full circle. He took an early morning bus and worked 6 days a week from 8 a.m. to 6 at night at the Fontainebleau. Then he changed uniforms and headed to the kitchen of the Doral Hotel, where he spent the evening shift washing dishes. Finally, at midnight, he headed back to the bus stop for his ride home. "It is his innocence that disturbed me," Cannon wrote. "With rag, brush, and polish, Beau Jack does his menial work with a joy I found depressing." Many reporters and fans alike saw his occupation as a come-down for a man who had sold out Madison Square Garden on so many occasions. Jack had a record 21 Madison Square Garden main events, which drew a total of $1.6 million at the box office. At the time, he had earned more than any fighter in the history of the Garden. Everyone asked what happened to all of the money. "I don't know and I don't care," Jack said. Despite returning to his humble circumstances, he didn't complain about what his managers may or may not have done with his money. "I accept fate," Jack said. "I began as a shoeshine boy and I'm resigned to end as one. All the good things that happened to me in between have been a blessing." Jack was married twice, altogether having 15 children. "You can't out-argue no lady," Jack said. "They blast their mouths off 99 billion times, all day, all night, same voice, same words, and you get tired. I just walked out. Don't like the way the pot's boiling? Turn the fire out." By the 1980s, Jack returned to the fight game, this time as a trainer and manager at Miami's Fifth Street Gym. Celebrities like Jackie Gleason and Frank Sinatra helped him out financially. Muhammad Ali used to come into the hotel and tip him $100 for a shine. One of his sons wanted him to move to a nicer area, but Jack refused. "Son, always play broke," Jack said. "Don't let people know you have a cent." On February 9th, 2000, Jack died from complications of Parkinson's disease in a nursing home in Miami. He was 78 years old. "I needed a shine, but Beau Jack will never polish my shoes," Jimmy Cannon wrote. "I still think of him as a champion."